Welcome to Influential Entrepreneurs, bringing you interviews with elite business leaders and experts, sharing tips and strategies for elevating your business to the next level. Here's your host, Mike Saunders.
Hello and welcome to this episode of Influential Entrepreneurs. This is Mike Saunders, the Authority Positioning Coach. Today we have with us David Sharifi, who is a trademark attorney and creator of the Masterclass Trademark Wars. David, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Mike. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah, I am excited to talk about your masterclass because I love the sound of it, just wars, trademark wars, because that gives the connotation that it's not as easy as just click, fill in the blank, check the box, and here's my trademark. There's a lot that goes on there. So before we dive into that, give us a little bit of your background of your law practice as well as your entrepreneurial journey.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you hit it right on the head. Trademark registration is not as easy as it sounds. It just really depends. It is a battle, so to speak, and I'm kind of a hired gun. I've been representing trademark owners for the better part of 13 years, and it's a lot of fun, and it's a lot of you have to do very strategic type of planning when you go into brand selection and adoption. So when you come up with a great brand name, in the shower, so to speak, for your new company, you want to be able to protect that name and make sure that you're not infringing on anyone else's rights. So it's an art and science in terms of how to pick these names from a marketing perspective and then running it by your legal. And I've kind of designed this masterclass, Trademark Wars, for the entrepreneurs who just want to kind of, dip their toe into the trademark field and really familiarize themselves with the ins and outs of trademark protection in the United States without hiring an attorney for hundreds of dollars an hour. Some people use LegalZoom. I think one of the best ways to skip attorneys is to file directly yourself on the USPTO website, the United States Patent and Trademark Office website. And of course, some trademarks may need an attorney because they're much more of a nuanced issue, and you might need some legal advice about how to go about protecting that trademark. So the masterclass is definitely designed to prepare the entrepreneur for battle and allow them to familiarize themselves with some of the basics of trademark law in the United States and then kind of make the best decision from there in terms of how to go about protecting their trademarks.
I love the concept of a masterclass because I think that sometimes people go from ideation, which is, I've got this cool idea, to, but I don't want to go hire someone for larger amounts of money, like a trademark attorney. So what's the in-between? Well, even like you said, LegalZoom, well, there still is, that's more of a, you better know what you're doing going in because they're just going to hand you this one package. You better know the reasoning behind it. So this masterclass would be helpful to educate and maybe navigate through some of those barriers and hurdles. So one thing that I was thinking of is I feel like myself even, and a lot of listeners would be curious, what's the difference between a trademark than intellectual property? Like what's in my head? What do I think of in my process of my business versus a trademark?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's a great question. There are different types of intellectual property that are in most businesses, and a lot of non-attorneys or even attorneys who are not trademark specialists will use the terms copyright, patent, and trademark interchangeably. However, in law, they are completely different types of intellectual property or different types of assets, and they have different requirements for federal protection. One thing that's common about intellectual property is essentially you have an exclusive right to do something with an asset, whether it's an email list or a recipe or a brand or a movie script, for example, and it's an exclusive right to you, and you have a right to enforce it against others that are making unauthorized use of your intellectual property. So in the case of counterfeits, for example, you have the Rolex brand that is going after counterfeit or wrongly branded watches that are putting the Rolex term, ROLEX, on their watch, and they're branding it as Rolex, but hey, they're not an authorized licensee. So that's trademark infringement, and Rolex uses its trademark asset or its trademark registration to send them a cease and desist and enforce their trademark against an infringer. So there are different types of intellectual property. Copyrights essentially cover original works of art. So this could be movies or photographs or text or algorithms, for example, or text on a website or a user interface. Songs, music, of course, are copyright protected. Trademarks protect brands, essentially, like the golden arches or the Apple logo with a bite removed, which is an apple with a bite removed, or the 4 rings for Audi, for example, or the Olympic logo that's coming up right now. That's a heavily protected logo, and every 4 years, the Olympic Committee goes after a lot of unauthorized use of their logo in marketing. So intellectual property is usually an asset that exists in almost every business, and it differs for every business, whether you're a pizza shop or a high-tech firm. And, of course, and intellectual property is the Trademark Wars course is really just for trademarks. That's kind of an individual type of asset that I think you can familiarize with. Intellectual property is much more complex. You're talking copyrights, patents, proprietary recipes, for example, confidential information. So it's really it's an umbrella term for your company assets.
Yeah, that's a good point, is that intellectual capital is what's in your brain, and then what starts coming out can be trademarked as proprietary processes.
Exactly. And these are just assets just like real property. So if you own a building on 5th and Main Street, that's real property, and you can rent that out, and you can sell it, and maybe you can take out a loan against it. Intellectual property is the same. You own the copyright to the Beatles catalog. That's worth a lot of money. So you can license that to Apple for streaming and things like that. So it's an asset that you want to properly secure within your company so that you can exploit it, and you can essentially make your competitors' lives difficult if they are copying your intellectual property. They're copying something about your business.
Yeah.
Such as the brand name, for example.
That's a really big, I know all of this is broad, but I would like to say or ask, is there a specific example you can think of for like a small to medium-sized entrepreneur that might need or want to consider a trademark for a proprietary process? And where I'm thinking of it is kind of like this. If you're a business coach or you're a consultant and you're working with clients, rather than calling this the onboarding process, we're going to move you into our onboarding and then our strategy or whatever these broad basic terms, it would be better for that consultant to call their process something unique and proprietary. Well, that kind of gives credence and relevance to their prospect, like, oh, well, they've got an actual process. What would that look like as far as trademarking, and is that even necessary?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm going to put a disclaimer here, and I'm sure it's on your website too, that this is not legal advice. We're just having a casual conversation. And of course, no one should rely on the information in this podcast, and consult with an attorney as they see fit. If you have a proprietary onboarding system, I mean, you can definitely label it in a certain way, as long as you're not being deceptive in the marketplace. Presumably you can call it anything you like. In terms of how it's actually protected, you really want to think about, what is it that will upset you if it gets copied by somebody else? Is it the user interface? Is it the 50 questions that you have at the questionnaire stage? Is it the algorithm in the back end that kind of decides, what to do with the onboarding info? So there's a lot of different systems in place, and you want to make sure that, you want to think to yourself, what is kind of sensitive and valuable to your company, and you want to kind of keep the lid on. So there's a lot of different ways, like you said, to approach the intellectual property portfolio of a company. And intellectual property is not necessarily free to register. Maybe it's free or low cost to create. But if you want to really protect it at a maximum level, you're talking significant legal fees. So you're not going to try to protect everything under the sun in your business. I think you have to make some choices. Nevertheless, if there is something proprietary that you think is worthwhile protecting, a good attorney will probably give you, a legal strategy to go ahead and protect that. One of the best examples here is recipes, for example. Recipes, like how to make lemonade, for example, is not by law protected by copyright. And there's some legal reasons in that we won't get into. Nevertheless, if you have a recipe for your grandma's pasta sauce, or the Coca-Cola recipe, or the KFC recipe, which are high value, assets in the marketplace, these are not protected by copyright. Therefore, if you copy those and you publish it on Facebook, for example, you will not be liable for copyright infringement. However, what Coca-Cola does is they protect the recipe as a trade secret. and it's a confidential piece of information. And if you bet you that that recipe is in a vault, and anyone who has access to it has gone through a slew of non-disclosure agreements and confidentiality and a variety of other legal metrics in place to protect the secrecy of that recipe. Because, I mean, if they lose that, their market value would be, down the toilet.
Yeah.
So that is just an example of a unique type of intellectual property for which maybe at the get-go there's no protection for, but there can be, a workaround or some type of other way to protect the secrecy or the exclusivity to that asset.
So let's talk a little bit about that process. And obviously, one process to accomplish that would be hire a trademark attorney like yourself, but then many times that's going to come with a price tag that might be more than what the entrepreneur is ready to invest at that point. So that brings you to the point of your masterclass. So talk a little bit about what someone would get and learn from your masterclass.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think going back to the process, one of the best things that entrepreneurs can do at the get-go is really familiarize themselves with the different types of intellectual property. And you're not going to become an attorney, but you want to have what I call working knowledge of these things so you can best speak with your attorney or at least source the legal needs of your business properly, whether you're doing it yourself or you're using an attorney or a filing service. So in the masterclass, lesson 1, actually, which is free to watch on the website, is just going over the different types of intellectual property. And my goal for that lesson is to really just set the table for entrepreneurs in terms of, okay, what am I dealing with? And is this a trademark? Is this a copyright? Is this a patent? And so on and so forth. So I think lesson 1, or any other way, whether it's on the Trademark Wars masterclass or just Google search, you familiarize yourself with the types of intellectual property, copyrights, patents, trademarks, trade secrets, utility patents, design patents, things of that nature. So you kind of have working knowledge from there. And then you can go back, because every intellectual property, again, we're using this umbrella term, but they're all different assets, and they have a whole different modality for protection, and they have different legal requirements and costs. So, then you kind of categorize and organize and go about it, each separately, like you're probably doing with all these other parts of your business, whether it's the product or the service or the promotion side of things. You have a lot of things on your plate. This will be just another one. And I think you might have so the masterclass is really designed to familiarize you with the different types of intellectual property. And if you're looking at protecting a trademark, I think trademarks can be relatively simple to acquire, as long as you know a few things that I think, wasn't taught in high school, so to speak. So for entrepreneurs that are considering using LegalZoom or filing it themselves, this course is designed to familiarize yourself with the conflict search stage so that you're not filing a trademark that might be infringing with someone else's trademark. It's designed to help you kind of prepare the application materials. It even has a step-by-step, screen-by-screen demo of filing a trademark directly in the U.S. Trademark Office, so you don't pay any extra fees. You just pay the federal filing fee. And there's different types of applications that can be filed. So there's some complexity there. When I really designed the masterclass for you to apply under the simplest application, which actually has the highest acceptance rate too, funny enough, and has the lowest filing fee. So there's a lot of, I think, hoops that entrepreneurs end up jumping through. Some of them may be unnecessary. And this course is really designed to help you file a nice, clean trademark if you have no issues with it, and get your registration without any outside help. Of course, at some point you might, hit a wall, or you might need to consult an attorney, and then you can go about and search for a trademark attorney, whether it's my law firm or any other trademark attorney on the marketplace that knows what they're doing, and to get some specific consultation. But I mean, as you can imagine, you really have, familiarized yourself with that issue by the time that you get to that point, because you've gone through the masterclass. And I think entrepreneurs have a duty really to themselves and their business to have working knowledge of intellectual property, because it's really one of the biggest elements of a business.
And it also makes me think of another question, which if I'm thinking linearly, you understand the process, and then you do your search, and then you make your filing, and then it's granted to you in 24 hours, right? No, this could take some time. So talk a little bit about time frames.
Absolutely. And we do have a lesson in there where you do see a kind of a flow chart of the different timelines. But yeah, once you file a trademark, and again, this is the modality and how you file a trademark that's very important, because you file under a specific application type, which is the intent to use basis. You are, Mike?
Yes.
Yes. Excuse me, sorry about that. Well, you file under the intent to use basis, you're essentially getting instant nationwide priority as of the filing timestamp or date. Right there, right then. So if you file an application an hour from now, you have instant nationwide priority. Now, there's some contingencies down the road that you still have to qualify for. But no, you don't get the trademark in 24 hours, but you do kind of draw a line in the sand in terms of instant priority, provided there's no issues down the line. So there is a huge advantage to filing and filing quickly. So priority and time are very important elements when it comes to trademarks, because in the United States, trademark priority does carry the day in case there is similarity between two trademarks. So time is on your side, or can be on your side if you use it properly. But again, just filing an application without knowing more, you might as well you might be making a fatal error, in which case your priority will be compromised. Or you might just be throwing money into the wind because the application is going to be, essentially have an error and never going to go anywhere. So this kind of due diligence process, whether you're working with an attorney or doing it yourself or taking a master class, I think is highly advisable, because you don't want to, make some kind of very avoidable mistakes and jeopardize the priority of your trademark or the filing fee. So
that's a really good point, is you kind of put a line in the sand to protect your filing status and time frame. But since it takes quite a while to move through the process, I'm sure sometimes months can go by. If you've done something wrong or didn't check the right box or phrased it the wrong way or whatever, by the time that it works its way through the system to get back to you, you could get kicked out, lose a lot of time, and now you're either starting from scratch or you're having to scramble to correct what you've done the wrong way.
That's right. And again, just going back to chronology, the masterclass is designed to kind of carry you through best practices from the moment of inception of a new trademark all the way to registration. So lesson 1 is kind of like, do I even have a trademark, or do I have a copyright? And then lesson 2 goes into the conflict search or due diligence process that is highly recommendable before you file an application. So how do I know that I'm not filing a trademark that is infringing with Pepsi, for example? Well, you've got to do a search, and there's different ways that you can do a search, and we cover that in lessons 2, 3, and 4, and then we go into the application filing process, and then we talk about post-application filing timeline and kind of what happens next, so to speak. And then after that, there's a couple of other steps, and you're hopefully home free with the registration certificate. So I think, one of the complexities about trademark protection for do-it-yourselfers or entrepreneurs is kind of like the chronology and what do I do first. And this lesson plan was definitely designed not only to give you the baseline information, but give it to you in a kind of a logical order so that you can run a variety of your trademarks in your company portfolio through this due diligence process. And again, you got to be smart enough to kind of spot issues where you might need outside help, which I think a lot of entrepreneurs have the intellectual capital to do.
I love how you phrased it logical order, because I'm not an engineer, but I sure love a blueprint and a checklist. You tell me to do step 1, and then I understand that piece, and then I move to step 2, and then it's logically building upon itself. To me, that Trademark Masterclass sounds perfect for someone looking for confirmation or guidance. Boy, I'm on the website right now, and I see just a vast amount of content and lectures that you're offering at an extremely affordable investment. So I really think that sounds wonderful. I will make sure that the link over to your Instagram page is in the show notes. But what would some final thoughts or advice be for people listening for, taking action on maybe something they've been putting off for their trademark in their business?
I would say that I totally understand that entrepreneurial vision. Yes. That entrepreneurial vision and the desire to want to protect your assets. And I think that it's a complex area, and the internet is on your side. There's a lot of great information out there to familiarize yourself and essentially kind of become your attorney. And this masterclass is one of them, and I'm designed to be the most kind of direct, least time-consuming, most informative type of course that I could have put together. So I would say that also consider hiring an intellectual property attorney. They can be a tremendous asset to your company. They can help you see things a little bit more clearly, and then plan the sequence of expenditures that you're going to be investing in your company, whether it's on product development, intellectual property protection, contracts, company formation. There's a lot of pitfalls when you're starting a company, especially if it's your first one. And a good attorney is definitely an asset, and as well as a wealth of DIY, do-it-yourself information out there that can help. So, go on Twitter, see what venture capitalists are talking about, see what other entrepreneurs are talking about, and, familiarize yourself with all the different aspects of your business. And, this is the golden age of entrepreneurship. It's easier than ever to launch a company. It's easier than ever to contact anybody across the world and find strategic partners. So I'm very excited about this current wave of entrepreneurship, and I'm excited about sharing my wealth of information with anyone who wants to listen.
I love it. Well, David, thank you so much for coming on. I agree with you. It's easier than ever. But you know what? Something that is easy to do is easy not to do. So I encourage people that are thinking of making steps toward, innovations and entrepreneurial ventures to take a look at David's Masterclass Trademark Wars. I've got your link to techandmedialaw.com as well as your Trademark Wars Instagram. So I've got that coded into the show notes here, David, and then also the Trademark Wars is Instagram.com/Trademark Wars. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was a real pleasure getting to know you.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to correct you for one last thing. I didn't say it was easy. I said it's easier than ever. And,
yes.
and something that I learned in law school was that if it was easy, everybody would do it. So I think hats off to all the entrepreneurs out there. You can definitely find me at Trademark Wars. That's the Masterclass. But if you DM me or if you need me, I'm sure you can find me on Google, LA Tech and Media Law Firm, and mention this podcast. And I'm more than happy to talk to you and help you in any way I can. And thank you, Mike, and thank you for all the wonderful podcasts that you've been putting on. It's been a great help to me. And congratulations on all your success.
Awesome. Thank you so much, David.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Influential Entrepreneurs with Mike Saunders. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit www.influentialentrepreneursradio.com.